none of us really have it all figured out all the time. The best we can do is try our best. Hello, and welcome back to Next Good Thing, a channel where I help you do stuff. Today, Hamilton and I are here to answer some of your questions. Now don't worry, if your question isn't answered in this video, I have seen it and will be answering it in a future video. Today, I'm going to be focusing on some questions that I received from a viewer named Crystal. Comment! Crystal grouped together a lot of questions in a topic that I like to call adulting, which involves all the stuff of being an adult in terms of taking care of yourself and being an active member of your community and being responsible in the way that you organize things, and in general, doing things that aren't necessarily fun, but that are very necessary. I'm going to go through each of her questions. I think that these will help a lot of people. Crystal asks, how do you get a good sleep schedule with all the distractions? How do you organize important documents like birth certificates, insurance, warranties, and all the stuff that your parents used to keep? How do you set limits on parents lovingly but embarrassingly oversharing your personal info on social media? And how do you find out who your local politicians are, what issues you can vote on at local levels, and how to contact your elected officials? I actually have an episode coming up that will be dealing with how to reduce stress while still being able to engage in politics and still be able to take care of yourself. So I'm going to save that last question for a future video. But the rest we can get into right now. So first off, how do you get on a good sleep schedule despite all the distractions? Oh boy, that's a hard one. And that will probably be expanded on eventually into an episode of its own. I had really bad insomnia my whole childhood. And this was a lesson that I had to learn at a younger age, but I do know that a lot of people first encounter this problem either if they have a very stressful high school experience or when they are just getting into college or just starting their first job. Sleep can be an elusive thing. I have found that the first and best thing that you can do is be realistic with your sleep schedule. If you typically get 4 or 5 hours a night, don't plan to get 8 hours a night. It's going to be a big adjustment for your body, and then you're just going to feel bad about yourself if you can't do it. Also, don't make yourself go to bed too early. You can't just force your body to be on a different schedule. It takes time. Try to select a time by which you will be in bed and a time by which you will turn off lights. You can't control when you're going to fall asleep, but you can control when you put yourself into a sleep-conducive environment. And that can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. I personally cannot sleep without the TV on or listening to a podcast. My brain just needs different stimuli to feel satisfied and at peace. Some people need total calm, quiet, turn off everything, wear an eye mask, whatever makes your brain the calmest, set that up for yourself. That's some good advice. If you know that you're not going to be able to fall asleep before 1 a.m., don't make yourself try to fall asleep before 1 a.m. This is especially important if you're someone who is in college and you have a workload that you're struggling to manage, or if you're working really hard in high school and have a lot of extracurricular activities, something where you are in one place like a school all day and then you have a lot of extra things to do when you come home. If you're a very social person and you need a lot of interpersonal interaction to be personally satisfied, and you are a kind of person who goes out to movies a lot or makes dinner with your friends or has a lot of movie nights, you don't have to not have those things anymore. Just be aware of how late they go and be prepared to leave those events in order to practice some self-care. Whatever's distracting you, whether it's something social like staying out late, going out to clubs, or if you just happen to have a lot of really late night studying to do, or if you find yourself falling into a habit like binge watching Netflix until 3 a.m., you can still do these things, you just also have to set boundaries for yourself. Instead of binge watching until 3 a.m., try saying, I'll never watch a show beyond 1 a.m. Now 1 a.m. may seem late. As you start getting into the habit of going to sleep earlier than you're used to, you will find it easier to reduce back a little further over time. It's not going to work if you try and force yourself all in all at once. I never thought of that. Try to do things that relax yourself, like take a nice bath with some incense or a bath bomb before bed to just feel relaxed, or try to solve a puzzle or read a chapter of a book, anything that just sort of helps your brain wind down. The other part of getting onto a good sleep schedule is waking up, and I partially addressed this in my How to Get Out of Bed video. Link, by saying that you should set as many alarms as you need that will get you awake, or if you're a light sleeper, just leave your blinds open so that you can wake up with the sun. You should try to make sure that you are awake at a time of day that will allow you enough time to get sleepy for whatever time it is that you set aside as your bedtime. I think the big fallacy of growing up is that once you're a kid, you no longer have a bedtime. That's not true. Everyone has a bedtime. The bonus of being an adult is that you get to set that bedtime yourself. You don't have to be in bed by 8 o'clock every night, but you should have some regularity in your schedule. Let's see what was next again. How do you organize all the important documents that your parents used to keep? If you can, I recommend doing this in stages. Begin taking on things from your parents slowly. It can be very overwhelming if you have suddenly all these documents all at once. So I do recommend having help if that's possible. But if that's not possible, or if you're in a situation where you suddenly have all of these documents all at once and you're really confused about what to do, I recommend getting a scanner or getting an app on your phone that can act as a scanner, and then just scan everything onto a cloud server, like Dropbox or iCloud, whatever it is that you use. Or if you don't have a cloud server yet, or you can't afford one, that's fine, but try to have an electronic backup of these documents in some way. Because especially if you're just in college now, or if you just graduated, you're likely going to be moving a lot. Things can get lost in the shuffle. You might not have time to organize everything right now. I get that. It can be really, really overwhelming. But you can at least know that everything is there. Okay, Hamilton, hi. Hi. I'm trying to film a video here. Is there something you'd like to say? Hi. Hi. I love you. Thanks. If you're just scanning these documents to a computer or to a cloud server that doesn't have the capability of searching text of an image you might upload, that's okay. OneNote is a Microsoft application that's available for Windows and PC that allows you to scan text within images, so I'll link that for you. Once you have all these documents on some sort of electronic backup, whether that is your computer or a cloud-based service, that will remove a lot of stress. Especially if you're young and you're in college right now, or you just graduated, or you're just in your first job, you're likely to move around a lot and things can get lost in the shuffle. The best thing you can do is have backups. But once it's all there, if you lose a piece of paper, you can at least find it digitally. Now be especially careful with things like passports or social security documents or any legal papers that are vital to your life. Maybe put those in a separate folder of their own in addition to scanning them, because the physical paper document is often very important. But ultimately, having an electronic duplicate of these important things can be really, really useful to you. And put all these scanned items in one big folder on your computer or on your cloud service until you have time to organize them. Now, when you're organizing them, you can adjust your system over the years. For instance, when I was first organizing all my documents, I would just label them as different kinds of stuff. I had a folder for car stuff and school stuff, so on and so on. You can always adjust these systems later, which is why I suggest starting with broad categories of stuff. I used to have just a folder for health stuff, for example. But now I'm older and I've had to deal with more things. I have folders within that folder for health insurance related billing, or veterinary services for my dog, or list of contact information for doctors. That's an example of how things get refined over time, but also give yourself permission to start with just a bigger collection of things. You can go through each of these documents that you've scanned in your own time, as long as there's no external pressure on you to have something done right now. You might have a folder that is super important to you because it has information containing a pressing need. I recommend organizing that first. For instance, if you know you're going to move to a foreign country in a few months, or if you're a trans person trying to file for a name change or a change in your birth certificate, I recommend making copies of all important documents related to those issues that you might want to file away somewhere else later. Put the copies of those documents into a very easy to find file folder within that larger scanned documents folder. That way, even if you don't know how you ultimately want to file birth certificate records or passport applications or whatever it is that's important to you, you don't have to search for them in just a big old mess of documents until you figure out your system. You at least will always have them in that big important folder of I need this right now stuff. And then I just recommend making as many backups of that backup system as you can. If you have a file folder system on your computer, try eventually also putting it up on a cloud-based service, because that way if your computer ever crashes or if you're moving and the box of those files goes missing, you will still have them and you don't have to be stressed out. Now, this next question is probably my favorite of the bunch, so let's revisit that. How do you set limits on your parents lovingly, but embarrassingly oversharing on social media? I have an answer for this one. If you have a parent that you can speak openly to and who respects you, that's the ideal situation. So if you're a child who constantly feels embarrassed by the way that your parents post about you on social media, I recommend approaching them and just ask them to check in with you before they post a picture of you, or before they share a story that you might find embarrassing, or even before they share an accomplishment that you might not be ready to go public with just yet. Whether you're a parent who feels like you're embarrassing your child, or if you're a child who is distressed because your parent doesn't seem to understand why you're upset, my rule of thumb is that if a person is old enough and aware enough to be concerned by the way that others portray them on social media, then they are a person who is old enough to have their wishes respected. I know that my parents treat me with as much respect on social media as I treat them. This means I never post a picture of them without making sure it's okay and that it's a photo that they feel good about, and I'll never share anything personal about them that they don't give me the okay for, and they do the same thing for me. Even if it's something that seems like it's positive and why wouldn't this person want to share it, it's always worth checking in. Like, you got straight A's on all of your finals and your parents are so proud. Well, you might have a lot of mutual friends from high school that are friends with your parents, and they might not have done really well on their exams. You might not want to rub that in their faces, so maybe mention to your parents, hey, could you avoid posting about that? I just think it would make my friend feel really bad about herself, and it's enough for me that I know I did good. I don't need to tell everybody. Conversely, if you're a parent and your child tells you great news that you're so proud of, just say, "Oh my God, that's so great. Do you mind if I share that on Facebook?" And if someone says no, just respect that. It doesn't mean that they're embarrassed of you. They just might have their own internal reasons why they want to keep some things private. With social media, it's easy to feel like everything we do has to be public all the time. I mean, look at me. I'm on YouTube. I'm sharing a lot of myself. But that doesn't mean I want everyone to know everything about me. If you don't have parents that are willing to listen to you and to respect your boundaries, approach other people in your life who know that person and who might see these things that make you uncomfortable. Talk to these people about the reasons that such things might make you uncomfortable and ask them to either ignore these posts from your parents or to unfriend if you think they'd be willing to do so, because other people's actions should not be a reflection on you. If it's a situation where you can untag yourself in as much as you can, and if your parents really honestly are trying to respect your boundaries and they make a misstep, try to be patient with them and say, "Hey, I really understand why you posted that thing, but it makes me uncomfortable. Would you mind taking it down?" Parents make mistakes. Try to cut them a little slack. They did change our diapers. A child is still a distinct person from their parents, and in that way should be treated just like anybody else that your parents would post about. It's very hard to define what level of privacy we each want in such a social media heavy world. So I think that the least a parent can do is listen to their child when they set these boundaries. For a parent, I understand that this might hurt. It might feel like a child doesn't want to be associated with you, but I promise that is not what's going on. But try also to remember that if something is big and important enough that a parent might want to share it, that also might be big and important enough for a child to want to keep private. And it has nothing to do with how much parents love their kids or how much kids love their parents. It's just about personal comfort levels regarding privacy. Thanks for watching. I hope I answered all of those questions to your satisfaction. Again, to those who did not have their questions answered this week, don't worry. I promise to answer all of your questions in one or more future videos. Please like and subscribe and share with your friends. And remember that I post new videos every Wednesday. Hamilton has run off to do important doggy business, but my dog Faith, who lives with my parents, is here to share with us an important message. I believe in you!